Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to see class 10 science chapter 8 heredity. So today we'll be learning about how reproductive processes give rise to similar but subtly different individuals, and also we are going to distinguish between variation in asexual and sexual reproduction, and we are going to compare variation levels in asexually with sexually reproducing organisms and to understand why variations are important for the survival of a species. So let's start the topic, children. Heredity. What is heredity? Heredity is the process by which characteristics or traits are passed from parents to their offsprings. So it clearly explains why children resemble their parents in many ways, like eye color, hair type, height, skin color, and blood group. Then what is variation? See, variation refers to the differences seen among individuals of same species. So no two individuals are exactly alike except some identical twins. And what is the importance of studying this heredity, children? See, it helps us to understand how traits are inherited and also to understand why offsprings resemble the parents and how these new variations are arising and how evolution occurs over time. Like we can give some examples like a child may inherit curly hair from the mother or may inherit height from the father. Like you people like different students in a classroom, they have different facial features, right? So what we can see in this slide, see understanding, we are going to understand the similarities and the differences. When we talk about the similarities and the differences, see every living organism produces offsprings that resemble their parents. Do you agree? Yes. So however, these offsprings are never completely identical. They are similar. They are not identical. Why these offsprings are similar, children? Because they inherit the DNA from their parents and the DNA contains the genetic information. But why are offspring different? Again, one question arises, right? So, small changes occur during reproduction. What happens? Small changes occur during reproduction and the environmental factors also influence the growth. Example, we can say like two siblings, they have the same parents, but they may differ in height, skin color or intelligence too. So, importance of variation, if we take, variation helps organisms to survive changing environmental conditions. So, heredity and inheritance. So, here I have given you some key observation. So, heredity. So, heredity is nothing but the transmission of traits from one generation to another through the genes. And here are some key observations or important observation. So let's take the first one. So sugarcane shows little variation. So what happens there? Sugarcane, it reproduces mainly through vegetative propagation. That is nothing but our asexual reproduction. So what happens? It produces nearly identical offsprings. And next one is humans show large variation. So what happens? So humans, they reproduce sexually. That is why leading to many genetic combinations. And next one, offsprings. They are similar but not identical. So what happens? The children inherit the traits from the parents but possess the unique combinations. And the last one, variations accumulate over successive generation. So new variations keep adding generation after the generation. For example, we can say a family, they may have common traits such as the eye color. Okay. So, but each member, they have a unique appearance. So here, given what we study in this chapter, like we are going to study how variations are created during the reproduction, why some variations survive and others don't, and some rules of heredity, and also how these traits are inherited across generations. So let's start with the accumulation of variation during reproduction. So what is this core idea? So inheritance provides a common basic body design and also subtle changes. So each generation, it inherits the differences from the parents, that is the previous one, and also adds the new one. So let's see this, how these variations are built up step by step. So in the first step, what happens? Parent organism reproduces. So the parents, the basic body design will be maintained, and also some small variations will be passed on. That is, the parents, they pass the genetic information to the offspring. What happens in the second step? The first generation, yes, the offspring inherit the parental traits along with small new variations. What happens in the third one? That is the second generation. More variations accumulate because each generation inherits old variations and adds new ones also. So the fourth one is the diversity increases. Accumulates is nothing but increasing. So over many generations, large diversity develops within the species. Like we can give one examples like let us take as humans. So humans today, we show enormous diversity because variations have accumulated over thousands of generations. Okay, here are some board exam questions. Why are offsprings not identical to their parents? Why, children? Because small errors occur during the DNA copying. Okay, and then new genetic combination arise during reproduction. Yes, let's move on to the next one. Creation of diversity over generation. So let's see this figure. So figure 8.1 is there in your book. Each generation accumulates variation from the previous one. Okay, let me explain this one. So this figure, it demonstrates how diversity increases generation after generation. So let's talk about the asexual reproduction over here. In asexual reproduction, what happens, children? Only one parent contributes the DNA, and these offsprings, they are almost identical, and the variations occur only because of the DNA copying errors. So what happens? Diversity is low. Example, we can say like amoeba, bacteria, hydra, yes. And what happens in sexual reproduction? Two parents contribute the genetic material. So that is why new gene combinations are formed. And the diversity is very high. Example, we can say like humans, animals, yes, flowering plants, yes. And the last one, why color coded? So each colored features like a red, green, pink, oval, yeah, it represents a different variant trait inherited or newly arising. Okay, can you able to understand this diagram, children? So what has happened here? So from the parent, see that the character, majority of the character or the dominant character has been expressed in the F1, in the first one, you can able to see. So next one, what happens? Even, yeah, the suppressed character also has been dominating. So we can able to see in this picture. Yes, I will explain to you when we go further in next chapters. So variation in asexual and sexual reproduction. How to compare it? So I have given you the features as well as the asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction points. First, let's talk about the number of parents. Here, the number of the parent in asexual reproduction is only one. But in sexual reproduction, male and a female both are required. That is why two. Here, the variation level in asexual is very low. Here, variation is very high. And here the source of variation is DNA copying errors only. But here, along with the DNA copying errors, some recombination of the parental genes also occurs. And here example we can say for asexual is bacteria, amoeba, hydra. Here for sexual humans, most animals and plants. And the rate of diversity generation is very slow in asexual reproduction. That too in sexual reproduction it is very fast, and new combinations each generation are produced. And here are some questions. Why is sexual reproduction better for survival? Because greater variation increases the chance that some individuals will survive the environmental changes. Yes. Why do sexually reproducing organisms show more variation? Like we can say two parents, they contribute the genetic material, right? So new combination of genes are formed here. Therefore, what happens? The offsprings, they differ significantly from parents and also one another, right? Let's move on to the next one. So here we are going to talk about the environmental selection of variations. So we can say as the survival of the fittest. Not all variants are equally useful, children. Yes, So what happens here? Environmental selection. The environment, it selects the individuals having beneficial variations. First one, let us take like heat resistant bacteria. For example, suppose a bacterial population contains both heat resistant bacteria and heat sensitive bacteria. Heat resistant bacteria means these bacteria, when the temperature rises, this heat resistant bacteria can survive. But what will happen to the heat sensitive bacteria? It will die. So the survivors reproduce and increase in number. So what is the importance of this? So beneficial variation increase survival and reproduction. So let's link it with the evolution. So variation and selection, it is equal to evolution. So this process gradually changes species over time. Like we can give one example, like some insects know that it becomes resistant to pesticides. Even when you put that pesticides, these resistant insects, they survive and they reproduce. So here are some questions. Explain environmental selection with an example. Environmental conditions, it favors individuals with useful variations. For example, we can say heat resistant bacteria, just now we saw. So they survive during high temperatures while others die. So leading to an increase in heat resistant bacteria. So next we are going to see one NCERT activity. Is there in your book, children? Yearlobe observation. And what is this? What is the aim of this activity? To study the inheritance using earlobe types. So two types are there. So first one is the free earlobe. So they hang freely from the side of the head. And another one is the attached earlobe. They are attached directly to the side of the head. So what you are going to do? You are going to see students in a class how they are having the different types of earlobe. So here are step-by-step procedure we have given. So what you are going to do? Observe the ears of all the children in the class, and you are going to prepare a list of students having free earlobe as well as the attached earlobes. And you are going to calculate the percentage of students having each type and find out about the earlobes of the parents of each student, and you are going to correlate the earlobe type of each student with that of their parents. Suggest a possible rule for the inheritance of earlobe type. So what it shows children. See, traits are inherited. So parents influence offspring's traits, and heredity, it follows certain patterns. Like for example, we can say a child with free earlobe often has at least one parent with free earlobe. Yes, so you can do this activity in the classroom. You can check, you can ask that particular student also how their parents are, what kind of earlobe do they have. At least one parent will be having whatever that student's earlobe pattern. So here are some memory tips and mnemonics. VSE rule, variation, it leads to the selection, and selection, it leads to the evolution. So every time you see variation, think what happens if the trait gives an advantage. Yes, it gets selected. So bacteria in a heat wave. So imagine bacteria in a boiling water. Only heat resistant ones will survive. So this is a perfect example for environmental selection of variants. So next is the sugarcane with humans. Sugarcane, asexual reproduction, what is that? Vegetative propagation. So all are like clones. So they are very similar. They are not identical children, they are very similar. But human sexual reproduction, so huge variation we can able to see. Next is the generation ladder. What happens here? Think of each generation as a diversity ladder. You start with parents' variations and add your own. Then what happens? Diversity will go up. So here are some frequently asked board exam questions. As I told you before, I'll give you a separate video for all these things. Yes. So let's see some questions also here. So how does the creation of variations in a species promote survival? What happens here? See, variations help some individuals survive the environmental changes. So these individuals, they reproduce and they continue the species. So I have given you the marks also, and which year they have been asked. Just go through children. And next one, if a trait A exists in 10% of a population, and trait B in 60% which arose earlier. Normally it's a trait B only because it is present in a larger proportion of the population. Next one, why do organisms that reproduce sexually show more variation than those reproducing asexually? Why? Because when you take the sexual reproduction, two parents they contribute the gene, right? And gene recombination occurs. So new combinations create more variations. Next is what is heredity? Heredity is nothing but the transmission of traits from parents to offsprings through genes. Next one is explained with an example how environmental selection acts on variation in a species. So what happens here? The environmental factors actually it favors the individuals with beneficial variations and it increases their survival and also reproduction. So let's move on to the next one. So we have come to the conclusion part, children. So what we saw today, we saw about heredity. Heredity is nothing but transmission of traits from parents to offspring. Variation is a difference among the individuals of same species. And asexual reproduction, that is one parent and is a very little variation. And sexual reproduction, two parents, we can able to see greater variation. And accumulation of variation we saw, that is nothing but every generation, it inherits the old variations and adds new ones. And environmental selection, that is useful variations, it helps the organisms to survive. And foundation of evolution, that is the variation and selection together, it lead to evolution. Yes. So just we can say like when the heredity passes traits, variation creates the difference and environmental selection drives evolution. Okay, children, that's all for today. Go through, yes, just watch all these videos. It will be very helpful for you. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.